Welcome to another episode of King's World. What are we going to talk about this time? It's a subject that is around and everyone's talking about, but not too many people know much about it. Let's call it SARMs. Selective androgen receptor modulators. That's what SARM stands for. So let's get into the beginnings and the delts and all this. No, we're not going to get into all that stuff. We're going to go into the highlights because I don't have that much time. Plus, you guys are going to get me all jacked up with questions and how much to do and dosages, and we don't want to do that. I'm not going to tell you guys how to do it. I'm not going to talk about dosages. I'm just going to give you the highlights. So here we go, SARMs. Okay, what are SARMs for? Okay, they increase muscle mass, increase bone mass, they burn fat, and they don't raise your estrogen levels. That's why they're so popular. They're not steroids, they are receptor modulators. That is the key right there, okay? Are they effective? Yes. How do we know? Because everybody in the world is starting to use them now, and they're starting to pick up on the effectiveness and how these things work. You should not use SARMs if you're under 21. That's very important. Keep that in mind, guys. 21 and over, that's the limit right there. It was discovered in the 1940s when scientists were modifying chemical structures of tests, and they discovered these receptor modulators, as we like to call them, SARMs. That's how it got started. People started to get their hands on it, and you know, guys, you know when bodybuilders get their hands on something, it's gonna explode, and all they care about is physical, and the doctors really didn't get too much into it because we got so much advances and there were so many things happening in the medical world that the SARMs were actually put aside. But now it's starting to come back. Why? Because of less side effects. The side effects are almost non-existent. I mean, there's still side effects, but it can drastically decreases the level of side effects when it comes to bodily harm. I'm gonna go over my top 3 SARMs. Number 1 on my list is Austrian, MK2866. This SARM is probably the most popular with competitive athletes, especially with women. I personally recommend this particular SARM for all my female competitors. It's very effective with the women. As far as the men go, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I would put it on a 3, but for women, it's more 6 and 7 with its effectiveness. All right, Austrian, what does it do? Promotes lean body mass. That's the number 1 factor it does. Remember, you don't want the water retention, especially when you get ready for a show. You want your water retention to be low. You want to have that nice crispy look. Austrian gives you that lean body mass without the water retention. What else does it do? Fat loss. It has been shown, now it's not 100% proven and all that stuff. I can only tell you guys from what I see with my own eyes with my clients. It promotes fat loss as well, especially in the ladies. It also promotes strength gains. I've seen this drastically with the women, a little bit with the guys, but drastically with the women. It really does promote the ability to get in there and train harder and with the heavier weights. I'm not sure exactly what's the chemical reasoning for the next reason, but you can also use it for a longer period of time. That's why it's so popular with all the athletes right now. There's really not much negative side effects when it comes to Austrian, even though you can use it for a long period of time. The closest drug that I've seen that comes to Austrian would be Anavar. This is the closest thing. They're very similar to each other. Lean muscle mass, slight strength gains, and you can use it for a long period of time. Next, we have YK11. This is the SARM that's not really a SARM. What? The number 1 thing that YK does is increase in muscle mass quickly. It is the fastest of all the SARMs, non-SARMs. I mean, a lot of people like to call YK11 a SARM. It really is not, and I'll explain that in 1 second. But the most effective thing that it does do is that it puts on size quickly. It is considered a myostatin inhibitor. It releases full statin, increases full statin, I should say. And if you read anything or if you've seen those magazines or those pictures of those incredibly muscular cows or dogs, that's exactly what blocking myostatin does. It stops, when you block your myostatin, you can keep growing and growing. Myostatin actually stops you from getting too big. So this is one of the things that YK does. If they get it perfectly in line and make this a FDA approved drug, it will be great for people who have MS. It will be a cure for MS, but they are still working on it. It's not quite there yet. SARMs have non-steroidal structures. YK11 is based on steroids. So that's where the difference is. That's why you really can't call them SARMs, but they are in the same category because people right now are taking full advantage of all of these things that are coming out, and they're categorizing it all into one, basic structure, and that's what SARMs are. Even the YK11 is not even close to being that because one's steroids and one's not steroidal. So it's the DHT when it comes to YK11, and when it comes to the SARMs, it's non-steroidal. That's the difference. Okay, and to top out my top 3 list, we have GW501516. This is called the ultimate workout enhancer. Why? Because it gives you, I'll explain it with one word, stamina. It gives you unlimited amounts of energy. As a matter of fact, GW is exactly what Lance Armstrong was taking and what he got busted for. Most of those guys who do the Tour de France or all of those high, like the Ironman athletes or the marathon runners, they all were experimenting with GW because of this stamina increases. It's amazing when it comes to energy production. It also totally destroys fat cells. It's an amazing fat burner while preserving muscle. It is one of the wonders of our industry. People are starting to figure out what GW is. I knew about it 10 years ago, and it's just starting to get popular now. But for fat burning and for stamina, there is nothing better than GW right now. By speeding up metabolism, it can also enhance cardiovascular function, bringing more blood into the heart. And again, going back to the same word that we used at the beginning, stamina. GW, if it was a ranking between Austrian and YK and GW comes number 1. It's sitting on a mountain by itself. It is the most powerful, the most effective, the best SARM out there. So there you go. Those are the highlights, the ones that I think are the best. There's a ton more out there, but you go do your own research. The King told you what I like and what I recommend to my clients and people out there who contact me. Okay, so what are we going to talk about next? We got SARMs out of the way. Next time we're going to talk about peptides. Okay, we're gonna finish off each episode with 3 questions. The questions you guys can send me via Instagram, and whatever you wanna ask. It doesn't really matter, there are no holds barred. If it has to do with bodybuilding, not bodybuilding, any other sport, it has to do with supplements, drugs, or even all the good times that I've had, the parties, and all the stories that I have. Believe me, folks, I'm gonna write a book one day, and it's gonna be one of the craziest books ever. Go ahead and ask your questions. So, initially I made the announcement, and I got some questions from Instagram. I'm gonna start reading them out and answer them for you right now. Question number 1 from Monster Mike on Instagram. He says, what tricks did you use to stimulate appetite in the off season? Well, Mike, there are really no tricks. What you have to do is, if you wanna stimulate your appetite, you wanna stay away from the powders, stay away from all those things, all those chemicals, the drinks, the pre-workouts and all that stuff, and stick with natural things, foods, whole foods. When you eat food and you eat clean foods and you eat them every 2 hours, you're stimulating your metabolism. Each time you stimulate your metabolism, your body goes into that cycle it just keeps going over and over again. Eventually you get to a point when your body fat starts to drop, your appetite starts to go up. Now, if you want to synthetically increase your appetite, you use GHRP6. That is one of the peptides, which I will be talking about in the next peptide show, but GHRP6, 10 minutes before each meal, and you will eat like an absolute maniac. Next question comes from Hassan K on Instagram. Hassan says, does having sex affect your body and your fullness? And I've heard that it decreases leg size. Is that true? Well, listen, folks, this is a question that I've gotten 1,000 times. Sex has nothing to do with you losing your muscle size or fullness, or especially losing size in your legs. Some of the biggest legs in the world, some of the athletes are the biggest psychopaths when it comes to sex, you know? Look at these guys in the Middle East. They have the biggest legs of all time, and they're all sex maniacs. So no, sex has nothing to do with losing size or mass. That's just ridiculous. Okay, and the last questions comes from my Mama Luke brother. He is one of my closest friends in the industry, Bob Ciccarello. We've gone through hell and back together, and we got a ton of stories you guys absolutely won't believe. I'm going to get to that in one of the future episodes. It's going to be all crazy stories from the IFBB. But his question is very simply, how much you bench? All right, so I know it's a funny question, but I also know where he's getting with that question. So at my peak, 405 pounds on incline for 15 reps. That was what I was pushing. You know, I was always known for being very, very strong. I was blessed, thank God, with that. But eventually, right now, as we speak, 315 for probably about 6 to 8 reps. That's what I'm doing. Never was really a bench press guy because I saw too many people tearing their rotator cuffs. Me, I like the incline, especially the Smith machine. So there you go. Those are your questions. Send your questions. Every time I do an episode, I'm going to answer 3. And let's have fun. Peace.